All right, so in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the 11 reasons why you might need or want an emergency fund. Okay, so when you're looking at an emergency fund, the whole point behind it is really if I have a little bit of extra cushion, a little bit of extra money in there in case something goes wrong. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. That makes it a little difficult to be able to get out of a situation if something was to happen. Now, there are some situations where people just don't know that are going to come up, and then you might be stuck or in a very tough spot to get yourself out of if something unexpected happens. And that's where the emergency fund plays a big role. So here we're going to look into 11 big reasons. And one of the first big reasons is paying off loans or debt. If you have an emergency fund and you have also debt and loans, having a nice emergency fund gives you a peace of mind and may allow you to be more aggressive in paying off your loans or debt. So even though you may not be expecting, let's say, things to happen like medical expenses or big time problems like a funeral cost, you'll able to save more money because now what you could do is if you had an emergency fund, you're feeling a little more secure. And those feelings could drive you to pay down those credit card debts, mortgage payments, and allows you to really just start saving more or investing more money in other spots. It allows you to be more aggressive with your earnings power. And that's one cool thing about those emergency funds. Okay, let's take a look at number 2, and that is keeping your goals on track. So when unexpected expenses come up, an emergency fund can help you from touching your savings. So if you have multiple bank accounts, maybe you have a checking account and then you also have a savings account. If you also have an emergency fund account, and you're saving for something else, then what's going to happen is that, if something unexpected happens, you'll probably have to tap into your savings. Let's say you're planning a wedding, a vacation. Well, if something happens, you might have to tap into your wedding savings or your travel vacation savings. But if you have that emergency fund, it allows your big goals and big things that you're looking to get in the future or experience. It allows you to keep on track with those goals. Or with those savings. So that's another great thing there with those emergency funds. Another thing here is number 3 is losing a job. Let's say you get fired, let go from your job. You might need some money to cover your living expenses, childcare costs, and that kind of thing. So, everybody has some kind of form of income that they're making, but if that's income is just lost or gone, anything happens to it, then you could have some serious issues, especially childcare costs and expenses, or just regular day-to-day things that you have to pay for. It can start to add up. So a job loss can be pretty substantial, especially if you have kind of one income source, which is our next tidbit and reason. So if you're on one income in your family that lives off of one income source, it may be more risky to not have an emergency fund or at least a cushion within your bank account. So, if you're working mom and dad and then somebody loses their job, now you could have a real big cut to that income source, and that could be a huge burden and problem. And that's where that emergency fund could help fuel some of those expenses. Okay, let's look at the next one, and that is self-employed. If you work for yourself, the market might be less stable during certain times of the year. So let's say you're selling Christmas sweaters, or you're a photographer, a wedding photographer. Sometimes the season's a little bit different, right? You have peak wedding seasons and you don't have peak wedding seasons. So you have kind of a Christmas time where you're not going to do a lot of weddings. You might do other photography, but if you're a wedding photographer, your primary clientele is not there. The same thing with if you're, let's say, an educator, a tutor. Maybe you're tutoring more during school season, but during the summer months, you're not doing as much tutoring. So again, for everybody, it's a little different, but if you're self-employed, there will be unexpected seasons probably to your job, or just unexpected things that happen. Maybe you're not getting clients, you're not getting the sales, and that could create a bit of some trouble. Okay, number 6 is major home repairs. So if your furnace, AC breaks, you might need some pricey home repairs that you just can't put off till later. Maybe a window breaks and you have to go ahead and replace it. Again, those things can start to add up very quickly within a house, especially if you don't want to go through the insurance process. But if you have something that's happening that breaks down unexpectedly, that can be costly. And that's where an emergency fund can be very beneficial. You can just tap into that and say, hey, it's okay. you know, it's maybe a $3,000 repair, use your emergency fund there, and then you go back and you slowly build that emergency fund back up again. It's the same thing when it happens to unexpected car repairs. Like let's say your car needs a major repair, especially if maybe you have an import car, you might need some extra cash to help that car get into working order, especially if you use your car to get to work. So now it makes it more difficult or pricey if you're using like an Uber or a Lyft or something like that. You know, doing that for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months can really put a dent in your wallet. So you might need to just get that car repaired so that way you could get back on track, get back to work, and it will be cheaper than taking some other forms of transportation a lot of times. Another thing, tip number 8, and reason number 8 is unexpected medical expenses. There might be a procedure that you, your family, or even your pet, like say you have a cat or dog, they might need a certain procedure to keep them healthy or to keep them alive. Let's say your pet swallowed a sock and now they need an operation. So that can cost thousands of dollars that maybe insurance or the government doesn't cover depending on where you live. So think about those things, especially if you have pets or people that are kind of compromised immune system, that there could be some unexpected medical costs that come up, and that's where that emergency fund can really help you out. All right, let's look at number 9. Natural disasters like hurricanes, floods, wildfires, and earthquakes, they can cause some major havoc. Now, insurance can help, but insurance doesn't cover everything, and not to mention you still need some cash flow to live your life. Like let's say you're kind of going in and trying to go to another location or spot and live there for like 2 months or 3 months. You might need some other things to be able to just survive and live kind of your day-to-day life. So even though insurance might cover like the house build, but you still might need to live somewhere, or you might need to travel to leave the location or area and have that cash flow until the insurance pays out. Because just because the hurricane happened today doesn't mean the insurance is going to send you money tomorrow. It may take a couple months for you to get that money or that funding. And then obviously you might not be working if you have a local job, so you have to leave town. So that could also create a big issue and problem. Let's look at number 10, and that is a death in the family. You might need to go and take care of some things to get the household stabilized. So if you have a death in the family and it's just unexpected, well, especially if it's your loved one, your spouse, and you have kind of now one income source, so that can create multiple cycles of problems where that emergency fund can be really helpful. So now you lost an income, you lost your spouse, you're emotional, and then now you have to pay for maybe funeral expenses and those kinds of things. So it's really draining, and that emergency fund can help kind of deal with that situation a little bit better. And then another one that we've got in number 11, and this is our last one, is a higher tax bill. You might not have realized it, but you may need to pay more taxes because you simply made more money. I've seen this quite a bit in my investment groups and areas where if you go to our website on tradersfly.com, some people actually end up making more money on their trades or investing, and they end up with a higher tax burden. And sometimes that can be a huge issue and problem for them, because then they, there's like maybe a $75,000 tax bill that they have that they didn't expect. And if you're interested in that website for more investing and stock trading, just go into my website here at tradersfly.com so you could take a look here. There's quite a bit to find here on courses and the blog, and a lot of knowledge and education, which is really just more about finance, investing, and that kind of thing, rather than personal finance. It's more about option trading and stock markets. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you got a couple of tidbits and tips here from this video, and feel free to check out our website at mylittlenestegg.com, and I will see you in the next video or episode.